Well, greetings. Jay Porter here. Been a while since I've seen you all. Well, I'm going to tell you a little tale of woe and adventure because I spent a week in the hospital one night. So let's continue here and the rest of the story, as they used to say on the old Paul Harvey. Well, families share love and they also share viruses, colds, diseases, etc. And from my grandchildren to my wife to me, I picked up a respiratory infection. In fact, it was I had the least of any member of the family. I was doing great. I was like 12 hours from, this is a minor cold. This is going to be going tomorrow. Suddenly, within like 12 hours, body slammed to the ground. I can barely breathe. And I call what they call the advice nurse. Now, her advice was that I needed to check myself into the emergency room. And she said, let me tell you this, put on a mask. You'll have to put on a mask to get in the hospital. You walk in and you're wearing a mask and you're not going to be able to breathe, and you're going to walk up to the counter and they're going to admit you to the hospital. Well, I took her advice. I walked in and I was in front of the admitting nurse, and I'm sitting there, and I thought I was going to have to use hand puppets to get into the hospital. Well, they let me in and I got into the emergency room for 15 hours. 15 hours in the emergency room because they had admitted a mass amount of people who weren't members. That's a great way of saying they didn't have insurance. And I was admitted. So I'm taken into the room and I'm in the emergency room, and they start installing IVs. Now, you would think that an IV in your left arm would have the IV from the left side, or in the right side from the right side. But no, they were crisscrossed because they felt that I probably needed to be strapped down like Frankenstein's monster. Now, after periodic bloodletting through the IVs, if they'd had leeches, I believe they would have used them. I was basically not allowed to sleep. Every few minutes, I was getting an IV of antibiotics, an antibiotic of super make you go pee to the bathroom stuff. Bloodletting, more bloodletting, people checking in on me every so often. Great care, but after a while, you begin to just almost hallucinate. When you say someone is not lucid, that they're a little out there, I kind of started to hum and sing. And so if someone was next door to me, they would have thought I was absolutely nuts. I'm getting tireder and tireder, and the light is on. Finally, I looked at my watch, and it was about 3 a.m, and the doctor I'd seen looked in the room, saw me, and she did the first really great thing for me all night. She turned off the light in my room, and I fell asleep for the first time. Well, 15 minutes later, my night shift nurse was there, and she was a mask Nazi. And she literally was bending down beside my bed, woke me up and said, "You're not wearing your mask." Well, the other intriguing thing that the hospital did was really unique engineering, because I figured out that they learned how somehow to pump oxygen through nylon fishing lure wire. What I'm telling you is these oxygen lines that were running to my nose were the diameter of 2 ants side by side. And the 2 little prongs that stuck up were about the same size. So it was very difficult for me to keep the oxygen in my nose, and they looped around my ears, so it was a unique kind of ear tourniquet that I don't know how that affected me medically, but I had an ear tourniquet, not to mention the mask. Well, it goes on and on. I can't sleep. Eventually, I'm about ready to finally figure out that I'm to pledge allegiance to the great leader Kim Jong-un. And they walk in and go, "All right, we don't have any rooms in the hospital. Let's jump in a Are you willing to jump into an ambulance and go 30 miles to our next closest facility that has hospital rooms? You bet I am. I go up and I go in the ambulance, get to the next hospital, and they go, this patient, and my nurse that was in the ambulance, the nurse that was in the ambulance with me said, this patient will not accept oxygen. And I said, hold it, lady. I'll accept oxygen. I'm having trouble using the fishing lure wire that you provided for me at the other facility, but I am quite willing and wanting of oxygen. So if you got it, line me up. Well, amazingly, this other place had much larger tubing that went to my nose, provided oxygen. They continued the bloodletting. They continued the periodic injections. And I was greeted with, ever so often, with, we need to check your vitals. So there was no sleep. It kept going on and on. Now, one of the interesting things they had at the hospital was they had something called the Calm Channel. Now, this is if you're laying there and you're going, like I was, pretty much almost in another world, and they show scenery, waterfalls, beautiful desert scenery. And so at nighttime there, I had the TV on, and they did kind of a cosmic thing. So you're traveling through the stars and nebula. It's all very peaceful. But then I woke up, and the channel had changed to a desert scene, and I'm sitting there with a fake near-death experience, meaning I thought I had traveled to either another planet or I was dead. Well, I called for a nurse and got a popsicle and soon discovered that I was still alive. Eventually, I was even able to get some sleep. So one of the things they did to me at the hospital, so it's a standard procedure, they did something called a body check. So they check you from head to toe for any cuts, scrapes, burns, abrasions, wounds, etc., etc., etc. So the original body check, there's a member from what I will call Team A, male, and there was another member from Team B, female. And I don't think any of it. I'm laying there, they're pulling my hospital gown up. I look up at the ceiling. What you do is you think of King Charles, and no thoughts are going to come to your mind about anything if you're thinking about King Charles. So anyway, they looked at me. So later on, the next day, in the morning, in comes a lady, and she checks me out and verifies the findings of the previous two people. And again, I look up and I think of King Charles, and it's a medical procedure. I really don't care. I'm not going to get my jollies in a medical procedure. If you do, you're kind of I don't know what you are. But that afternoon, in comes what I will call two definite members of Team B. Two very attractive young lady nurses. And suddenly, I'm almost hearing the sound from one of those old porn movie or soundtracks from the 70s, whatever. It's the slow jazz. I'm laying there, and he said, well, we need to apply some ointment to you. So I lay back, and I'm thinking of King Charles, and they're applying ointment to my groin area. I did the best I could, but King Charles couldn't overcome it. So anyway, they finished up, and then they said, you can ask your nurse to apply the ointment tomorrow. And it's like, no, thank you. No, I'm quite capable of doing this. Thank you very much. And then, later on, my day shift nurse, nice lady, sweetheart, absolutely sweetheart. She goes, do you need me to apply the ointment? All right. No, thank you. I'm fine. I'm good. I can do that. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I did get great care, and I did have some fantastic people that took care of me. But I got to tell you, I spent a week in the hospital that night.